Hi, Big Dreamers. It's Eva Cartman, host of the Dream Big podcast show, the place to go to learn, laugh, and grow. As you know, I'm always on the lookout for fun and unique stories to illustrate an important life lesson. And I have a great one for you today that is based on a real life story. Imagine if you decided to invite the world's toughest man, a retired Navy SEAL who held the record for the most pull-ups in a single day, to live with you for a month and follow his every order. Why in the world would you want to do that voluntarily? You're probably asking. Well, you're about to find out. This is episode 167, Big Dreamers, and it's time to dream big. My name is Eva Cartman. I'm part of a squad of super kids that are here to change the world. We don't believe you need to be adults to have big goals and start working towards your dreams. We believe age is just a number, and you're never too young to make a difference. We may be young, but we are not naive. We understand that achieving our big dreams will not be easy. It will take incredible dedication, hard work, and yes, massive action. There will be ups and downs, but we embrace the challenges and relish pushing outside of our comfort zone because this is how we grow. They may not teach us these concepts in our school textbooks, but we are smart enough to know that the tools and tactics to achieve our big dreams are out there. And we are willing to do the work to seek out these skills and master them because we know that our future depends on it. We are the Big Dreamers, and it's time to dream big. Before we dive into this week's episode, let's start off on a lighthearted note with the segment we call Silly Sophia.
Why did the teddy bear say no to dessert? Because he was stuffed.
Thank you, Sophia, for the hilarious joke. Now I'm going to share what definitely is not a joke, and that is voluntarily deciding to invite a Navy SEAL widely considered to be the world's toughest man to live in your house with your family for a month and follow his every command. No, this is not a movie. This is a true story. David Goggins is a retired Navy SEAL and is the only member of the U.S. Armed Forces to complete SEAL training, including 2 Hell Weeks, the U.S. Army Ranger School, where he graduated as an enlisted honor man, and Air Force Tactical Air Controller training. For those of our younger Big Dreamers who are not aware, Navy SEAL and Army Rangers are called to conduct the most dangerous operations during wartime, and the training that you must complete for these programs is famous for being incredibly challenging, with the vast majority of soldiers trying out are turned down. After David's career in the military, he decided to run an ultra-marathon to raise money for families of soldiers who were killed or wounded in the Iraq War. David has become one of the most accomplished endurance athletes in the world, completing over 60 ultra-marathons, setting new course records. As I mentioned at the top of the show, he once held the Guinness World Record for pull-ups, completing 4,030 in 17 hours. Now let me ask you, would you and your family want to invite this man into your home where the only agreement was that you must do anything he says? Well, that's exactly what Jesse Itzler did. Jesse is also an accomplished runner. When he first saw David Goggins, Jesse was participating in a 100-mile race as part of a 6-person relay team, with each member running approximately 16 miles. David was running all 100 miles by himself. Jesse was so intrigued by David and the determination and grit that David demonstrated that day that Jesse called him after the race and ultimately invited him to come live with his family for 31 days. David agreed with one condition. Jesse had to do whatever he said with no exceptions. On day 1, David told Jesse that he wanted to go for a run. No big deal, right? Yeah, under normal circumstances. But David was living with Jesse in December in New York City. It was one of the snowiest winters on record, and there was a blizzard at the time of their run. That first day's run was actually just a warm-up for what was to come. At one point during David's stay, him and Jesse did what David called a 4-4-48, where during a 48-hour period, every 4 hours, David would wake Jesse up and they would go outside and run 4 miles. So essentially, they were doing the equivalent of a marathon each day, but with little sleep. And this was done outside in the snow during the winter in New York. Now, Jesse wrote a book called Living with the Seal, 31 Days of Training with the Toughest Man on the Planet, where he documents the entire experience and shares all the intense workouts that David had him do. He also has many videos on YouTube talking about the experience, which is how we found out about it. I'll include a link to a few videos in the show notes, which I definitely recommend you check out because he does a hilarious job telling the stories. But for purposes of this episode, I want to talk about why Jesse decided to do this and what we can learn as big dreamers. I would say that if there was one most common piece of advice that I have received from all our podcast guests over the last 3 years, it has been that in order to grow, in order to achieve your big dreams, you must be willing to push outside of your comfort zone. Now, I'm certainly not advising you to invite a Navy SEAL in your house, and I'm sure your parents would not want that either. Nor am I telling you to go run long distances in the snow. The reason why Jesse hired David to come live with him is because he understands the value of pushing outside of the comfort zone. Jesse did not need to invite David to come live with him. He's a successful entrepreneur who has sold companies for millions of dollars, and if he wanted to, he could literally lay in bed all day watching movies and not work another day in his life. But Jesse noticed that his life was becoming too routine. He was doing the same thing every day. Waking up, going to work, having dinner, and repeat. And he knew he needed to make a change. Think about how this might apply to your own life. As a student, it's very natural to have a similar day-to-day routine. You wake up, eat breakfast, go to school, come home, do homework, maybe play a little, and go to bed. How can you find ways to break up that routine and push outside of your comfort zone? You can do that within your normal day-to-day activities. Like, for example, at school, you can choose to push outside of your comfort zone by looking for an opportunity to speak in front of your class or at a school assembly. Or when you are running on the playground or during a team practice, you can try to run faster or longer than you've ever done before. You can also research with your parents to find experiences that push you outside of your comfort zone. You've probably heard me talk about Spartan obstacle course races before, and I've interviewed Spartan founder Joe DeSena twice now on my podcast. Spartan has races designed for kids where you climb over obstacles and through tunnels and run through mud pits. It's really challenging, but also really fun, and I'll be doing my 4th Spartan race later this month. So my challenge to you this week is to come up with one thing that can push you outside of your comfort zone and do it. Even if you try and it does not go perfectly, you need to start getting comfortable with the idea of being uncomfortable. That has been the biggest takeaway from all the guests we've had on the podcast. I hope you enjoyed this real-life story of Jesse Itzler inviting David Goggins to come to his house for 31 days and follow all of his orders. When I heard Jesse talk about the experience, I just knew I had to share it with all of you as a reminder of why it is so important to push outside of your comfort zone. Hopefully one day I'll have the chance to interview Jesse about the experience and how it has changed his life. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world to me if you take a moment to leave a review on iTunes at dreambigpodcast.com/iTunes. And it really does make my day to hear from you and know that the hard work that we put in each and every week to bring you a new episode every Monday is making a difference. So if this podcast is helping you, please ask your parents to help you leave a review at dreambigpodcast.com/iTunes. It also helps our position in iTunes rankings so we can reach more young big dreamers and bring you amazing guests. A few more announcements. We are going to be pulling down the beta of the Dream Big Academy very, very soon, and definitely before the end of this year as we prepare to launch the Academy. So if you haven't already received my free Confidence Secrets course, then make sure you go to dreambigpodcast.com/beta while it's still available for free. The beta includes 1 hour of me teaching you about how to grow your confidence, which is the key to going after your dreams. The show notes for this episode will be at dreambigpodcast.com/167, where we will include links to Jesse speaking about his experience with Goggins, which I encourage you to check out. And that's all for today's episode. As always, thank you so much for tuning into the Dream Big podcast. This is Eva Cartman reminding you that you have unlimited potential. Your dreams are not optional, you need to make them essential. So take massive action to turn those big dreams into reality. Live with passion, the way life was meant to be. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!